bear with me, and I hope you can cut through my drawl. Sorry, it's a North Alabama thing, I can't help it. All right, the Kyogen spin column is used in procedures to purify this substance, such as mini preps. Depending on its environment, this substance can exist in 3 different conformations with differing rises and pitches. This substance displays hyperchromicity when heated and displays an inflection point at its melting point. Hext and Daphne stain this substance by binding to a 12 angstrom groove. The sum of the twist and ride in this substance's linking number, which can be modified by topoisomerases. This substance's phosphodiester backbone is not subject to acid hydrolysis, unlike a similar substance whose backbone contains a sugar with 1 more oxygen. This molecule exists in supercoils wrapped around histones to form chromatin. 10 points, named as double helical.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 double helix. Okay. Got it. Here's your bonus. This man convinced his father to conquer the Moroccan city of Ceuta for 10 points each, named his son of John I of Portugal, who gathered a court at his house of Sagra. He's best known for sponsoring numerous naval expeditions down the coast of Africa.
Henry the Navigator.
Henry the Navigator's sponsorships paved the way for explorers like this man, who built on the success of Bartholomew Diaz by voyaging around the Cape of Good Hope in 1497. His trip is commemorated in the Lusiads.
Vasco da Gama.
Vasco da Gama arrived in India at this port city, also known as the City of Spices. This city, ruled by people called Zamarin, attacked members of Pedro Cabral's expedition and were bombarded in retaliation.
Madras?
Calicut.
Okay.
Or Kozhikode, I guess would be the pronunciation of that, but it is not Calcutta. All right, so that was 20. Toss up number 2. The oldest known text in this people's language was written by a king of Kusara named Anita, who sacked what would become its capital. Some texts in this people's empire were written in Luwian, the language of the people to its southwest. Their last monarch may have managed to conquer the trading post of Alashia. The speakers of Nishite conquered the Mitanni kingdom under Suppiluliuma I. With the power to the south, this empire fought a battle on the Orontes River, probably the largest chariot.
Hittite.
Yes, 10. Second Great Awakening giant Nathaniel Taylor graduated from this seminary, while its college was presided over by Timothy Dwight, 10 points each. First, named this prestigious now interfaith divinity school, which also educated Jonathan Edwards, who names its major collection of manuscripts. Amistad lawyer Josiah Gibbs also worked here.
Oberlin?
It's Yale.
Oh.
This U.S. city is home to Union Theological Seminary, the birthplace of Black liberation theology and womanist theology, among other influential religious movements. It also contains St. Patrick's Cathedral.
Boston?
It's New York. Most students who attend the seminary at Liberty University, the world's largest evangelical university, belong to this Protestant denomination, whose Southern Conference is the largest Protestant church in the U.S.
Baptist.
Yes. Woo! Toss up 3. Repeating different examples of these things, such as al-haku and dua as a dua, can grant benefits such as prosperity. In the first line of the throne verse, hayu and kayum are used as examples of these things. Sufis repeat a word used as one of these things, hu, while engaging in dhikr. The 99 of these things that are called the most beautiful in Islam include Ar-Rahmani Ar-Rahim, which is said in every utterance of the Basmala. Those 99 examples of them are often combined with abd to create personal names. Strongly observant Jews never utter one of these words, called the Tetragrammaton, which is usually written in Latin characters as YHWH. For 10 points, Jehovah is, and it is 13. Yes. Your bonus. The middle section of this piece is taken up by a lengthy drum solo played by Joe Morello. First name is Jazz Standard, written by Paul Desmond. The song is the third track on an album that includes Blue Rondo a la Turk and is built around a two-chord vamp played by the piano. Anything?
No answer.
It's Take 5. Take 5 is the third track on this jazz pianist's album, Time Out. Its fifth track, Kathy's Waltz, includes sections in both 4/4 and 3/4 time.
Snap.
That is David Brubeck. Another jazz waltz is the one titled For Debbie by this jazz composer, who collaborated with Scott LaFaro and Paul Motian on the live album Sunday at the Village Vanguard.
Johnson.
That is Bill Evans. Toss-up number 4. This character silently consented to joining another character on a morning walk to Oakham Mount. When told that poetry is the food of love, this character replies that one good sonnet will starve it entirely away. This character is told to accept an unhappy alternative that from this day you must be a stranger to one of your parents, after a conversation between her and a fan of Fordyce's sermons. This character's friend, Charlotte Lucas, marries a priest. That priest,
Elizabeth.
yes. That's 10. Here's your bonus. The primary voice of this book is a woman from Boston who has come to Dunnet Landing, Maine, to write. First, name this work of fiction by Sarah Orne Jewett, which is framed as a series of stories told to its narrator by characters like Captain Littlepage and Mrs. Todd.
Black Beauty.
It's the country of the pointed firs. Sarah Jewett belonged to the New England variety of this broad American artistic style, which focuses on authentic cultural experiences of a geographical area, such as the Midwest or the South.
Regionalism? Yeah, regionalism.
Very good.
Okay.
The regionalistic style took off after this war, which symbolized the triumph of national interests over state differences. Much of Southern local color fiction is embedded with elements in the lost cause of the Confederacy of this war.
Civil War.
20 points. There was nothing civil about it. Toss-up 3, repeating. No, I've already read that one, sorry. I've actually read 4. This is 5. Grab it. Keep me online here. James Franco was accused of appropriation when he placed himself in 29 works in this medium displayed at the Pace Gallery in 2014. The works bust with reflections of Flatiron Building and telephone booths attempt to capture the effect of this medium, which inspired the work of an artist who strapped a paintbrush to his hand after becoming quadriplegic. Hyper-realist artists who imitate this medium include Richard Estes, and we are here.
Photography.
It is photography. That's 10. Bonus is, this concept was first proposed to explain the stability of benzene. First, name this phenomenon that describes conjugated molecules and delocalized pi systems. It's exhibited by ions like carbonate and nitrate.
Ionic bond.
It's called resonance. Molecules exhibiting resonance have multiple viable contributing structures, which are typically depicted using this man's namesake dot diagrams.
Lewis.
Yes. Another example of delocalization is this stabilizing interaction of sigma bond electrons with an adjacent orbital. This interaction explains the greater stability of tertiary carbocations compared to less substituted examples.
Addition.
It's called hyperconjugation. Okay. 10 points for Gilbert Lewis. Toss-up 6, the director of this ethnicity depicted an ex-con doctor who reads surrealist poetry from his book, Roadside Picnic. In the 2015 film, Kylie Blues, Keith Quincy's 1988 book on this ethnic group, was cited heavily in a book about one of them who was treated at Merced Community Medical Center for a condition called Caldepe. Many members of this group live in China's Guizhou province.
Muslims?
No. Name 5. Where they are considered part of the Miao people. A family of this ethnicity with an epileptic daughter is the subject of Anne Fadiman's book, The Spirit Catches You and You Fall Down. General Vang Pao led a U.S.-backed secret army of these people to attack the Ho Chi Minh Trail. For 10 points, name this ethnic group whose members settled in California, Wisconsin, and Minnesota as refugees from Laos.
Vietnamese.
No. It's the Hmong. Toss up. 7. The enzyme GPX1 uses this molecule to reduce a pair of glutathione molecules and form a disulfide bond between them. This chemical's reaction with diphenyl oxalate initiates the reaction that lights up a glow stick. Despite its freezing point being very close to 0 Celsius, this compound forms a eutectic with water that freezes at -51 Celsius. This compound is used to trigger assays whose target molecules are conjugated to an enzyme derived from horseradish. MCPDA is often used in place of this compound due to its superior selectivity. The disproportionation reaction, catalyzed by superoxide dismutase, forms water and this compound as products. And it is decomposed by catalase into oxygen and water. This substance which decomposes, and that's here.
Hydrogen peroxide.
Yes, thank you, sorry. Dang range. It is hydrogen peroxide. And your bonus. Don't do drugs, kids. Your bonus. In response to these laws, John Dickinson wrote that Americans will be made as abject slaves as France and Poland can show in his Letters from a Farmer in Pennsylvania. 10 points each. First, name these acts that taxed goods like paper, glass, and tea through an American Board of Customs Commissioners. They were named for the minister who proposed to them in 1767.
Townshend.
According to the Townshend Acts, Lord Rockingham passed the Declaratory Act in combination with the repeal of this 1765 Act that taxed all printed goods.
Stamp.
The Stamp and Sugar Acts were the brainchildren of this prime minister who preceded Rockingham. His government also prosecuted John Wilkes for seditious libel.
North.
Grenville, or Grenville. That's 20 though. Here's toss-up 8. This writer described a creature whose color and shape become more and more perfect as a person who has attained nirvana climbs the Tower of Victory. This author created a character who criticizes a manuscript because in the 3rd chapter the hero dies and in the 4th he's alive. This author cites the book on Malay witchcraft in an entry on the Bao Achu alongside a description of the island-sized sea turtle Zaratan. In a story by this author, a phone call from the apartment of Victor Runeberg spurs the speaker to escape Richard Madden and visit Stephen Albert, a scholar studying the story's title structure. This writer described 120 mythical creatures in his book of imaginary beings. 2 points. Name this Argentine author.
Borges.
Yes.
Aye.
Your bonus. This philosopher advocated a life-affirming outlook that he called amor fati, which refers to loving and embracing one's fate in life. First identified this German philosopher who declared that God is dead and gave science.
Nietzsche.
Nietzsche used this term to refer to what he believed to be the ultimate force in humans, the force that generates ambition and striving to achieve the highest in life.
Okay. Übermensch.
No, it's the Will zu Macht, or Will to Power. This book by Nietzsche applauds life-affirming philosophers and conquerors like Caesar, Napoleon, and Thucydides, while denouncing Socrates as the epitome of decadence. It presents a number of single-sentence aphorisms in its section Maxims and Arrows.
Okay, Homo.
Twilight of the Idols. Points. All right, toss up number 9. A ruler of this name commissioned the first of Fabergé's eggs for his wife, Dagmar of Denmark. which contained a golden hen enclosing a royal crown. Another ruler of this name gained territory from Abdul Hamid II after his forces won the siege of Pleven. That ruler concluded the displacement of the Circassians. A ruler of this name was nicknamed the Peacemaker for reviving the League of the Three Emperors and created the Okhrana. The second ruler of this name had his gains decreased in the Congress of Berlin after securing the independence of Bulgaria from the Ottomans in the Treaty of San Stefano. That ruler promoted local councils called Zemstvos.
Alexander.
Yes. Your bonus. Objectives for this process are classified within Bloom's taxonomy, 10 points each. Identify this process which Jean-Jacques Rousseau outlined an ideal form of for the title boy in Emile. Lev Vygotsky's zone of proximal development describes ability to participate in this process.
Education.
Yes. This early 20th century theorist pioneered methods of scientific pedagogy in the Children's House that were praised by progressives in the U.S.
Dewey.
Montessori.
Oh.
This education theorist and Summerhill method advocate worked on the Annenberg Challenge to reform Chicago schools with Barack Obama, whom he was controversially associated with during the 2008 campaign. His husband, Bernadine Dorn, was denied tenure at Illinois for writing books like Prairie Fire.
No.
Bill Ayers. All right, so 10 on that. Toss-up number 10. Sabrina Galizia theorized that the central lunette above a painting of this scene contains its artist's prediction of the end of the world in the year 4006. Several restorations of that version of this scene were necessitated by it being struck by bombs in 1943, though it was protected by sandbags in the refectory in which it is housed. A ghostly version of this scene is only lit by a single lamp on the left, out of which angels fly. A large aureole surrounds the main figure in that diagonally oriented version.
Last Supper.
Yes. That's 10. And bonus is, translator John Willett used the term alienation effect for a phrase that a German playwright had identified in this genre of theater, which he wished to incorporate into his own epic theater first. Name this genre of performing arts with regional variants like Kung Chu and a more prominent one named for a national capital. This genre's repertoire includes plays like Farewell My Concubine.
Kabuki.
It's Chinese opera.
Oh.
That theorist who described alienation effects in Chinese acting was this German playwright of the Caucasian Chalk Circle and Mother Courage and Her Children.
Right.
Yeah. Brecht wrote about the alienation effect after seeing a 1935 European tour by Milan Fein, a performer who was known for playing this general type of role called Dan in Chinese and Oyama in Japanese.
The hero.
Female, just a female role. Brecht got you 10. We're at halfway. What's the score?
The last one was 20, wasn't it?
We tended it, yeah. We
Brecht.
tended it.
Okay.
Brecht was all I got, yeah.
Okay.
It's like, I should be making it quick.
So 165 to
30. 165, 30. All right. Toss up 11 then. The speaker of a poem in this language recalls the deaths of his Roman companions and says no one remembers them. Justice. That poem includes lines like, "We who had nothing will teach them peace," and "I woke with this marble head in my hands." A poem in this language advises to hope your voyage is a long one, and another ends, "They were, those people, a kind of solution." A novel in this language is about a student who goes to work in a lignite mine, the title character, who romances Madame Hortense.
Greek.
Yes. Paul Cohen built upon the work of Kurt Gödel to demonstrate that this statement cannot be proven nor disproven with ZP ZFC set theory first. Name this hypothesis, which states that there is no set whose cardinality is strictly between that of the integers and that of real numbers.
Null hypothesis.
Continuum hypothesis, good try though. The integers have a cardinality which possesses the countable form of this property, while the reals possess its uncountable form. This number is usually represented with a symbol resembling a sideways 8 and indicates a number is boundless.
Infinity.
According to one theorem, negating the continuum hypothesis is equivalent to stating the axiom of this property, which was proposed by Freeling. An unrelated theorem from physics states that a conservation law exists for every physical system with the differentiable form of this property.
Identity.
Symmetry. 10 points. Toss up. 12. Morley Safer interviewed a man who spied on this country under the guise of one of its top Time magazine correspondents. This country's army lost decisively in an invasion that it gave the code number 719. This country's Comigal agency received hundreds of thousands of refugees under the advice of Edward Lansdale. Melvin Laird coined the name of a strategy that aimed to build up this country's military. Frederick Knowlton and Henry Cabot Lodge Jr. were both ambassadors to this country.
Mexico.
No, sorry. During its Buddhist crisis, the assassination of this country's dictator and failure of the strategic Hamlet program were documented in Daniel Ellsberg's Pentagon Papers. 10 points name this country where helicopters evacuated Americans during the fall of Saigon when it lost the Vietnam War. Prompt.
South Vietnam.
There you go. I had to check to see if I could prompt you on that. All right, so South Vietnam gets you 10, and here's your bonus. The best known version of this work is a largely made up translation by Edward Fitzgerald from the Victorian era. First, name this set of hedonistic verses by Omar Khayyam, which call for celebrating paradise on earth, and questions God's purpose in lines such as the moving finger writes and having writ moves on. Yes. The two most frequent objects used as images in Fitzgerald's version of the Rubaiyat are pots and these objects, which embody the hedonism of the poem. The Persian term saki refers to someone who carries them. Anything?
Money.
Cups. The namesake rubai of the poem are tightly themed Persian verses of this many lines. A proper Shakespearean sonnet contains 3 instances of verses with this many lines, followed by a couplet. Yes. Quatrain. All right, so that was 20. And our next toss-up, number 13, correct? Michael Eysenck, who co-authored a textbook studying this phenomenon with Baddeley and Anderson, criticized the levels of processing model of it as lacking sufficient depth. Carl Lashley attempted to locate the operation of this phenomenon in engrams. A form of this phenomenon operates by a phonological loop, according to a model of it developed by Baddeley and Hitch. The Lost in the Mall experiment, which examined the ability of this phenomenon.
Bystander effect.
No, sorry. The Lost in the Mall experiment, which examined the ability of this phenomenon to be altered clinically, was conducted by Elizabeth Loftus. Alexander Luria studied a journalist who exhibited the eidetic type of this phenomenon.
Memory.
Yes. And bonus. This technique was developed by Kai Siegebahn, who gave it the alternate name ESCA, for 10 points each. Name this technique in which light of a certain wavelength is shot at a sample, and the kinetic energy of the resulting ejected electrons are measured. The binding energies of the sample's inner shell electrons can thus be measured. It is X-ray photoelectron spectroscopy. Yeah. Or XPS. XPS XPS relies on the photoelectric effect, which was famously explained by this scientist in a 1905 paper. This scientist also postulated that the rest energy of a particle equals its rest mass times the speed of light squared.
Einstein.
Yeah. The binding energy in XPS is equal to the energy of the incident X-rays minus the kinetic energy of the electrons minus this quantity for the spectrometer. Phi is often used to symbolize this quantity, which is the minimum energy required to eject an electron from a given atom. Anything, Captain?
No, yes, sir.
It's work function. Einstein for 10. In Hamiltonian mechanics, a function f is only conserved if the sum of its Poisson bracket with the Hamiltonian plus its partial with respect to this variable is 0. When this quantity is cyclic, the energy of a system is conserved. The cycloid is the solution to a pair of problems named for this quantity. This quantity is assumed to be identical between reference frames when using Galilean transforms. Torricelli names an equation that relates the initial and final velocities of an object with constant acceleration with no need for this variable. The directionality of this quantity is oriented with the increase in entropy of the universe and is a namesake arrow. Integrating acceleration with respect to this variable yields velocity, then position. 2 points. Name this quantity, typically denoted t, and measure.
Time.
Yes. Measured in seconds. Your bonus. This painter was one of the jurors in charge of awarding the Prix Blumenthal, a grant given to a young, up-and-coming French artist. First, name this artist, who painted art critic Felix Fagnon in front of a swirling background of different colors and patterns.
Signac.
Signac or Signac was a practitioner of this technique, which uses smaller brush strokes than the similar divisionism. George Seurat utilized it in his Sunday Afternoon on the island of La Grande.
Pointillism.
Very good. Along with Seurat and Signac, this French symbolist helped found the Salon des Indépendants. His works include Eye Balloon and a charcoal work depicting a giant floating head supported by a single wing called Guardian Spirit of the Waters.
Corbett.
It's Redon. R-E-D-O-N.
Is that Cameron that answered that one?
Camera books, yeah.
Okay. Just making sure.
Thanks. And that was 21 bucks. Also 15, this deity presents a stag as a gift to a young lover that accidentally spears it to death and turns into a cypress tree out of sorrow. The foundation of Apulia is attributed to a lover of this deity named Iapix. This deity yokes a lion and a boar to a chariot in order to help a companion win his wife in marriage. Yes.
Apollo.
Yes. And that is power. And your bonus. A leader of this party named Johann Strijdom was nicknamed Lion of the North. First identified the party, which first won a majority in Parliament in the 1948 election under Daniel Francois Milan's leadership. Its government implemented the Group Areas Act and the Land Acts.
Conservative Party.
National Party. This South African policy of racial segregation was implemented by the National Party.
Apartheid.
P.W. Bosa's Rubicon speech stated that he would neither end apartheid nor carry out this specific action. This action took place during the subsequent government of F.W. de Clarke on February 11th of 1990.
Integration.
The release of Nelson Mandela from prison. All right, so apartheid got you 10. Toss up 16. It's not being gay, but one book recommends that people with this characteristic live as outcasts and perverts to challenge the omnipotent administrator. Paul Claudel and D.H. Lawrence are included among 5 writers who perpetuate the myth of the eternal nature of people with this characteristic in the latter part of a section titled Facts and Myths. These people were the object in Mulvey's film theory, which opposes them to a counterpart's gaze. One is not born with this biological characteristic, but rather becomes a person with it, according to a book that inspired a contrast drawn by Judith Butler with the non-biological concept. For 10 points, identify this biological characteristic, which is referred to by the title of Simone de Beauvoir.
Like sex. Gender. Sex and gender.
Need more than that.
Like being female.
There we go. All right. And your bonus. This region is spanned by a series of railways connecting Moscow to Vladivostok. First, identify this large snowy region of Russia that consists of most of the country east of the Urals.
Siberia.
Siberia comprises much of this region, designated by Halford Mackinder in his article, The Geographic Pivot of History. This term refers to the inner areas of the world island of Africa, Asia, and Europe. Mackinder thought securing its control was the key to world domination.
Eurasia.
Heartland. Mackinder gave this river as the western bound of the heartland. This river's drainage basin includes the Oka and Kava rivers, meaning the basin encompasses cities as distant as Moscow and Perm.
Volga.
It is the Volga. 20. Okay, toss up 17. The exposition of this symphony's first movement ends with a clarinet solo that grows quieter and lower pitched until its last 4 notes are given to a bassoon. It is a somewhat unofficial tradition to clap after this symphony's third movement, a march-like scherzo in dual 12/8 time and common time. This symphony begins with a slow introduction in which a solo bassoon plays over divided double basses, while its last movement is an adagio lamentoso in the home key of B minor. Some have cited its composer's guilt over his same-sex desire for his nephew, or his consumption of cholera-infected water as probable causes leading to his death 9 days after the premiere of this symphony. 10 points. Name this final symphony of...
Mahler's Ninth.
No, sorry. Final symphony of Tchaikovsky. Go. No, pathétique. Toss-up number 18. During this period, different scholars proposed the horizontal strategy of uniting to oppose expansionism and the vertical strategy of bandwagoning. 2 great theories of an advisor from this period are given as fixing the standards of weights and measures and treating the people as one under the law. The book compiled by Liu Shang that names this period presents the views of the school of diplomacy, which flourished during it, like a philosophy that preached universal love. The 100 schools of thought blossomed during this period, which chronologically follows the spring and autumn period. It ended when a man who crowned himself Shi Huangdi unified the country.
Warring States period.
There you go. Your bonus. The monoclonal antibody denosumab prevents decreases in this quantity by inhibiting the rank ligand. 2 points. First, name this quantity that can be quantified via a DEXA scan. Bisphosphonates are commonly prescribed to maintain this quantity.
Pressure.
What?
Blood pressure.
Bone density. Biphosphonates help treat osteoporosis by causing the death of these cells, which form in response to the release of IL-6 from osteoblasts. Parathyroid hormone increases blood calcium levels by causing formation of these bone-digesting cells. Captain?
Platelets.
Or osteoclasts. Bone density is often measured at the head of this bone, which is the longest in the human body. The cavity in the hip where the bone fits is called the acetabulum.
Femur.
It is the femur. 10. Toss-up. 19. Michael Moon claims that the speaker of this poem uses the energy of the lonely girl's desires in order to caress young men who do not ask who seizes fast to them. This poem ends by reassuring its addressee that I stopped somewhere waiting for you. In this poem, a lonely woman spies on 28 young men bathing by the shore. This poem invites the speaker's soul to loaf and observe a spear of summer grass, and later compares the grass to the uncut hair of graves.
Like myself.
Yes, that's a 10. This learned monarch translated works of Boethius and St. Augustine into English, 10 points each. First name this monarch, who signed the Treaty of Wedmore with Guthrum after the Battle of Edington. This only English monarch with epithet Great ruled Wessex.
Alfred the Great.
This region, defined by the Treaty of Wedmore, lay to the northeast of Alfred's Doom-book-governed realm. Viking customs predominated in this region, which was governed in counties called Wapentak.
Danelaw.
And Alfred the Great defeated this military force, once commanded by Ivar the Boneless, at the Battle of Edington. It was supposedly founded by the sons of Ragnar Lodbrok.
The Danes.
Not really what they're looking for here. Anything more specific? They would have accepted the Great Danish Army or the Great Viking Army, but the Great Heathen Army was the preferred answer. All right, so Alfred and the Danelaw got you 20. And speaking of 20, here's toss-up number 20. The 1993 Nobel Prize in Physics went to a pair of scientists who showed that a star of this type in a binary system had an orbit that was decaying due to its emission of gravitational waves. The recycled variety of these objects are thought to have been spun up through accretion from a binary. The first extrasolar planets ever discovered were found orbiting one of these stars, which eventually reach a death line. The Hulse-Taylor binary system contains a neutron star and one of these, whose millisecond variety have a very short period. They were first observed by Anthony Hewish and Jocelyn Bell.
Supernova?
No, I'm sorry. Who initially called them little green men. For 10 points each, named these rapidly rotating neutron stars that emit X-ray radiation from their poles. Pulsar.
Yeah.
And a bonus. This archetype is exemplified by Beltov from Alexander Herzen's novel, Who is to Blame? 2 points each. Identify this common literary archetype from 19th century Russian literature, a talented and capable man who is unable to fit into mainstream society. It takes its name from a novella by Turgenev. Anything?
Genius.
The superfluous man. One of the earliest examples of a superfluous man in Russian literature is the protagonist of this author's first novel, Eugene Onegin. Pushkin. Yep. The title character of this best-known novel by Mikhail Goncharov is an extreme example of a superfluous man. He's so bored, disillusioned, and lazy, he doesn't get out of bed for the first several chapters.
No answer.
Oblomov. Drum roll, please.
So I got 100 to 285.
I had 290, but
290. I had 4 negs over here.
Yep, which would make it 290.
Oh,
Or it would make it like
Yeah, I had 300.
there we go.
Bull McKee.
I got 280 the second
What did you have after 15? Or, yeah.
Oh, oops, I didn't add up the, what was it for 20? There was, what was it converted to?
10 on the last one.
10 on the last one?